Joined once again by Tommy Aiello from the National Taxpayers Union. And Tommy, appreciate you coming back on the program here. So let me sort of reset where we were at. Obviously, over the holiday weekend, the president signs in what he calls the big, beautiful bill. Let's just call it a mega bill, spending and taxation and some policy stuff in there. There were some things in there that are absolutely fantastic. There are some things in there that are fine. There's some things in there that are not so great. And there's some things in there that are just downright ugly and just really bad. But it's all one package, and I don't like the tactic of doing it that way, but it is what it is. That's what we have to deal with. So then it comes down to, are we just stuck with the bad stuff and we have to eat it, or can we still address the bad parts of this bill while maximizing the benefits of the good stuff, like making those tax cuts permanent that went into effect during his first term?
Hey, Mike, thanks for having me back on. I'm glad everything got straightened out yesterday. So, yeah, just to put a finer point on that, right, really good that we avoid a $4.5 trillion tax increase at the end of the year. Really good that we lock in the TCJA and make permanent a lot of the really important pro-growth provisions from that law. Not great are some of these carve out for individual taxpayers that add complexity to the code. It's fine that we phase out the Inflation Reduction Act and Green New Scam things. Could be quicker, but we start to phase it out, which is good. And then, of course, not great. We not only reduced revenues by $5 trillion, but we saved government spending about $1.3 trillion. It adds about, $3.8 trillion to the national debt. So yes, we definitely need to address all of those things. I'm really hopeful that there could be another reconciliation package this year, which would do a lot of those structural spending reforms. But we need to do something because we're going to be spending $84 trillion over the next 10 years, and the bill is going to come due, and it's going to make this $5 trillion tax bill really look like a drop in the bucket.
Yeah, I mean, if we talk about reducing, $5 trillion, or we, as far as revenue goes, I'm fine with that. But logic tells you have to reduce your spending by $5 trillion and $1 to make that work. And so It's one thing to say government's going to take in less money. I'm all for that. But we've got that roadblock. We've got that mental block, that political block that stops Congress from continuing to spend money. One of the biggest mistakes, it seems to me, is that this bill includes an increase in the debt ceiling, which makes me question how serious that the government is right now when it comes to trying to be fiscally responsible.
Yes, so right now in Washington, it's something called appropriations season. Even though it is 100 degrees outside, they still need to find a way to fund the government over the next 12 months, and that process will go from now up until about September when the fiscal year ends, and then there might be a government shutdown, right? That's what we hear every year, that the potential for a government shutdown. So the House already passed one appropriations bill. It spends more money than last year, about $5 billion more. It's not a lot of money, but it just continues the same process that we're just going to spend more each year, put a lot of our government on autopilot. What we need to do, and this is something the National Taxpayers Union is calling for, is we passed the one big beautiful bill. We needed to do it. We need to change some of the parts of it on its own. But in addition to all of that, we need to continue to pass the rescissions packages. The White House wants to spend more to save more money. We need to return to pre-COVID-19 spending levels. We need to pretend like it's 2019 again, and we can cut spending by $1 trillion a year. That is a lot of money. And we need to have a fiscal commission that can find ways to increase the efficiency of the government and find ways to save money, right? Elon, through his Doge, they found a lot of waste, fraud, and abuse in the government. With the fiscal commission, they can have outside experts determine what is working, what is not working, and how we structurally reform our federal budget. So we're not going to be spending $84 trillion over the next 10 years.
What should be the target of future rescission bills? We spoke with Congressman Bob Onder a little bit earlier this week, and he actually is backing up what you're saying, is that those are likely on the way, probably one in a reconciliation bill, if not more rescission bills in the fall, and maybe another one in the spring is what his understanding is. So where should those targets be when it comes to forcing fiscal responsibility, because I just don't think, Tommy, the people understand eventually this bill is going to come due. We're so used to kicking the can down the road that we think this is just numbers on a spreadsheet and it doesn't actually affect us. But we are at some point going to hit that cliff.
And it's going to be really bad when we hit that cliff. And look, I think you can fix your house's roof when the sun is shining. We see storm clouds over the horizon. We need to fix the roof as soon as possible. And I think there's a number of ways to do that, right? You can raise taxes. This administration has said they don't want to raise taxes unless it's on tariffs. Tariffs are taxes, and we're bringing revenue in that way. Ideally, we will eliminate the tariffs, and we will not bring that revenue in, but we can, raise taxes on individuals, small businesses, corporations. None of those things are ideal, right? You take those off the table, and you have spending changes. You can only really cut about 25% of the federal budget because you have 75% of the budget on autopilot. That's your Social Security, your Medicaid, and Medicare, right? Social Security, and I don't know, I'm sure you've talked about this, but people are going to receive a 23% cut to their benefits by 2031 now. That's only 6 years away if nothing changes. So you can see these storm clouds on the horizon. We need to make the changes today as soon as possible. So not only can people keep their Social Security, but we can, get our fiscal house in order, restore some fiscal sanity to the city. Otherwise, you're going to have persistent high inflation. We called out President Biden for 4 years for spending $4 trillion, $5 trillion, whatever it was. All of that reckless spending fueled inflation. We're going to have the same situation over the next couple of years. So what we need to do is not only, have this sugar high of growth that is going to come from this tax and spending bill, but we're going to have continued high inflation because our whole government is on autopilot. So unless something changes, people are still going to feel high prices, and things are only going to get worse over the next couple of years when that bill comes due. You're going to have to either pay more in taxes or receive a substantial cut to your government benefits. And, I think there's a path forward where you can keep taxes low and keep benefits somewhat the same if people want that. Obviously, that's not ideal from our perspective, but we have to remember we need Democrats to come to the dance with us. If Republicans are doing this on our own, we're probably not going to get there. It needs to be bipartisan at the end of the day. And unfortunately, neither party in Congress has the appetite to really want to do anything. So we're really stuck between a rock and a hard place. There are storm clouds coming, and God forbid that there is another unforeseen economic calamity or health crisis. We're going to be under a lot of pressure to spend even more. So that trend line of government spending is only going to increase, not decrease.
All right. And you've written op-eds on this. You can find those on your website. How do people get in touch, follow you on social media, things like that? Because this is the type of stuff where it gets wonky. People listen to talking points instead of at least looking at the summaries. And that's one of the things you guys are particularly strong about, is saying, okay, here's what it all means, boils it down to, by the way, if you want to jump into the jungle and all the weeds, and here are the links to it, but here's what it actually means.
So our website is ntu.org, and we certainly do a lot on fiscal policy and tax policy, but we do so much more. We do stuff on healthcare, energy, infrastructure, really anything that has a taxpayer impact. And I think everything has a taxpayer impact, so we really do it all.
Yeah, and eventually some of those taxes, by the way, are felt in just the ways that things cost more money. And that's like when you referenced, I think what you're referencing, you're talking about tariffs are taxes. We end up paying them. They're always a tax on us. They get rolled down to us. So that's why this is crucial. We deal with it now. So Tommy Aiello, National Taxpayers Union, appreciate the insight.